What makes idle games so addictive, and how can you actually use these games to feel more motivated to accomplish your goals? Now that might sound a bit far-fetched. If idle games are so addictive, wouldn't they just waste our time and prevent us from getting work done? If used in the wrong way, of course. But I believe there is a way to maintain a healthy relationship with idle games, and by the end of this video, hopefully I can share how I use my favorite idle game, IdleOn, to increase my motivation towards getting work done to accomplish my goals. And I hope that you will be able to apply these ideas in your own way to achieve your goals, whether it be for your career, school, hobby, or side business. We should first understand what makes an idle game so addictive. In these games, the player will complete simple tasks like clicking on a cookie to make a counter go up. This number increases with every click, and every time that number goes up, dopamine is released in the brain. Dopamine is the chemical that is released in the brain every time we experience a reward and gives us the feeling of pleasure and the desire to obtain more dopamine. This is what motivates us to get work done, as every time we complete a task, we are rewarded with the dopamine release, and we want to feel that sensation over and over again. Looking back at an idle game, the task of clicking a button to be rewarded takes minimal time and effort to get that dopamine hit, so the release of dopamine becomes very constant and can create a cycle of addiction where the player feels the desire to keep playing to experience the same rush of pleasure and reward. Now, a game where all you do is click on a button to make a number go up doesn't actually sound very exciting, does it? This is where variety comes in. Now that we have clicked the cookie 15 times, we can buy an upgrade that will automatically click it for us. Or we can buy an upgrade that gives us 2 cookies per click instead of 1. The possibilities of upgrades in idle games are endless to make that main number go up faster and faster. The variety keeps things fresh, and we're much more intrigued when faced with different options to make that number go up. Additionally, elements of randomness play a significant role in making these games more alluring. The anticipation of a reward that can strike at any moment amplifies the release of dopamine, leading to addiction. This is the same principle that fuels gambling, or why gacha games and loot boxes work, or even the thrill of hunting for a shiny Pokemon. Well-designed idle games incorporate this element of chance by offering random rewards to maximize dopamine output, and we'll see some well-constructed examples of this shortly. It's also important to keep in mind that idle games offer more than just a quick dopamine fix. They are still full-fledged video games that establish an atmosphere. They can boast unique themes, engaging storylines, visually stunning art, and intricate soundtracks. Some idle games may even involve skillful gameplay mechanics, elements of micromanaging or organization, and a whole host of other features that make them enjoyable and worthwhile. And the idle game that is my personal favorite, which combines all of these elements, is IdleOn, also known as Legends of IdleOn MMO. Let's take a look at what makes IdleOn so addictive. First of all, IdleOn doesn't have one single determination of progress like money or cookies. The goal at first is to idly farm monsters to obtain unique loot to craft items which will increase your damage, to farm harder enemies to unlock even better upgrades. And as your damage increases, you can gain even more loot to spend on even more upgrades to keep the numbers go up cycle going. And there are so many different subsystems to the game, such as mining or fishing, and upgrade trees like alchemy and cooking. The amount of variety contained in IdleOn certainly contributes to its addictive nature. And IdleOn contains many elements of random rewards. Take a look at unlocking a new vial in alchemy. You must roll a 100-sided die, and you start off needing to roll just a small number to unlock those first few vials. This feels very good by giving you lots of quick dopamine hits, but later you start to need a 99 or higher, which is just a 2% chance of unlocking those late game vials. But you keep anticipating that reward, which constantly outputs dopamine and keeps you coming back to try again until you unlock that vial and get a huge hit of dopamine, so then you're motivated to keep on trying for the next and the next. or looking at one of the new skills added, Divinity, which has your players accumulate points which you can spend to unlock powerful god bonuses. But rather than having the god cost a certain amount of points and then you unlock it, you have to spend a certain amount of points for just a chance to unlock it. But once you do, it is all the more satisfying. And every enemy in the game has a unique loot pool with different item drop chances. There are some extremely rare items that my players have farmed days and days for, and when I finally obtain that drop, it feels all the more rewarding. On top of all the great game mechanics, IdleOn boasts an amazing atmosphere. Each world is uniquely themed and features beautiful pixel art that brings the enemies, items, and landscapes to life. The game is populated with a cast of interesting and wacky NPCs that give out quests and provide laughs, and there are plenty of other jokes woven throughout the game. The ability and animations are incredibly satisfying, especially when you're slaying tons of enemies all at once. And let's not forget the finishing touch, the soundtrack. Just give this track a listen. In addition to all we've covered, IdleOn also features a social element. Humans are social creatures who seek validation, so players will naturally desire to fulfill this recognition from the in-game guilds or the online community, or simply being seen by other visible players in-game. Seeing a player at level 400 with that insane endgame armor drives you all the more to make progress yourself. This social component adds an extra layer of excitement and camaraderie to the game, making it even more enjoyable to play. So clearly, idle games can be quite addictive, and one might argue that these games should be avoided altogether due to the lack of tangible long-term benefits. There is quite a bit of merit to this, as time spent playing a game is time taken away from other activities. However, what may be overlooked here is the fact that idle games are, at their core, a form of entertainment that can bring joy and happiness into our lives. As with any form of leisure, balance and moderation are key. If we spend all of our time working towards long-term goals, we would inevitably experience burnout. It's perfectly acceptable to enjoy playing idle games, but it's important to exercise self-control and avoid letting the allure of these games take over the other aspects of our life. And personally, I find that idle games actually have the ability to increase my motivation to accomplish other goals. The way I execute this is by rewarding myself with playing the game after accomplishing something else. It may be finishing your homework, or studying, working out, or practicing a productive hobby you've been meaning to get around to, like learning an instrument. Whatever it may be, after you accomplish that task, give yourself some time to play that idle game and get your next upgrade for that sweet dopamine rush. Dopamine contributes greatly to our desires and motivations. Rewarding yourself with something high in dopamine output after completing a hard task can train your brain to associate productivity with pleasure. This will make it all the more easy to accomplish those hard tasks, as you will have a release of dopamine during that task while anticipating the reward. The brain develops its priorities based on how much dopamine is released from a certain activity, so something like reading a book may not release a whole lot, since the brain won't release dopamine when no reward is anticipated. Therefore, it is difficult to make that goal a priority. But if you anticipate a high dopamine reward like playing IdleOn after finishing that chapter of a book, dopamine is actually released when a potential reward is expected, so you can release dopamine while you're reading and give yourself that desire and motivation to finish that book. So essentially, we wish to trick our brain by making it a habit of rewarding ourselves after finishing a boring task like studying or reading. So after you finish all of your work for the day, go ahead and load up IdleOn and give yourself that dopamine reward. Many idle games encourage you to constantly check in to maximize your rewards, but with IdleOn, I find you can check in once per day and still make a great amount of progress, or even wait days or weeks and still be rewarded greatly. In many idle games, as you progress further, it may seem like you have to play even more frequently to make progress. IdleOn is quite the opposite. In my experience, I played a lot more frequently, at first when the game was fresh for me, but now that I am in the late game, I can check in just once a day to keep my progression going. What works well for me is to accomplish everything I have set for a day, and once I finish my work towards my goals, I reward myself with a check-in to IdleOn. So you've watched up to this point and might be thinking, isn't it straightforward that completing work before rewarding yourself with leisure would be optimal for productivity? And for some, sure, but I believe it's also important to sometimes take a moment to think about what motivates us every day and reflect upon our habits, and maybe thinking about what makes an activity so rewarding or even addictive can help us be more conscious of how we are spending our time overall and allocate more time to what we truly find meaningful and make us happy. Idle games are one of an endless possible pool of rewarding activities in life that can bring us enjoyment and even increased motivation when used with a mindful approach. Their elements of variety, randomness, and atmosphere all add to their appeal that makes them so addicting. IdleOn has emerged as one of my favorites, and if you have never heard of IdleOn, you should definitely check it out to experience its addictiveness firsthand. Typically, I make Stardew videos for this channel, but I wanted to try something a bit different and was inspired by the developer of IdleOn's video contest, so I thought it would be fun to participate and make this video about something I'm pretty passionate about. I hope it was enjoyable, and if it was, consider leaving a like, or if you'd really like to increase my dopamine levels, drop a comment down below. I'd love to make some more videos relating to video games and psychology in the future, and for my usual Stardew audience that is here, of course I'll keep up with that content as well. As always, thank you for watching, and goodbye.